Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to Receiving Noor Quran study session. We are starting a new season in this beautiful night of September 21, 2016. We are starting with studying Surah 45 from the Quran. Sister Yamina will be leading the study. As usual, you're welcome to join in with your thoughtful comments and questions. And we also have a more formal Q&A session at the very end. Inshallah, this will be a time of drawing closer to our Creator's guidance and opening up to a very profound surah, inshallah. Bismillah. Without further delay, I turn to Sister Yamina. Jazakallah khair.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. So this Surah 45 is Surah Al-Jathiya, and its name is taken from the 28th ayah of the same surah, where the word Jathiya means kneeling before God in humility. And it has 37 ayat. It's a Meccan surah. And it is one of 7 successive surahs in the Quran that starts with the disconnected letters Hamim. And these 7 surahs are known as the Hamims. And they are the surahs from 40 to 46. And this Hamim has many mysteries. I know at least of one dua that starts with 7 Hamims. It's a dua for protection in situations of danger. And each Hamim refers to one of these 7 surahs. There is also a hadith, Sahih, from Sahih al-Tirmidhi, which says, إن بيتكم العدو فقولوا حاميم لا ينصرون, which is, if you're in danger, if the enemy raid you, then say Hamim, they will not be victorious. And in Surah Al-Sajda, Surah 41, Ayah 16 is La Yunsarun. So Hamim and La Yunsarun are actually a combination of 2 ayats from the Quran. There is also a dua which is said to be protecting from hellfire. And that dua is made up the beginning of the surahs of these 7 ayats. Sorry, there's 7 surahs. So it starts from the 2 first ayat of Surah 40, then 41, 42, 43. In 44, it's the 3 first ayat, and then again 45, 46, 2 ayat. So it's Hamim, تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز العليم حاميم تنزيل من الرحمن الرحيم حاميم عاسين قاف حاميم والكتاب المبين حاميم والكتاب المبين إنا أنزلناه في ليلة مباركة إنا كنا منذرين حاميم تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز الحكيم حاميم تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز الحكيم. And you see that the ayah 45 and 46 starts with the 2 same ayats. حاميم تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز الحكيم. So these are 7 very powerful surahs. So today my intention is to go until ayah 6 if we can, inshallah. The first ayah is Hamim. The second is the bestowal from on high of the book issues from God, the Almighty, the Wise. In the heavens as well as on earth, there are certainly signs, ayat, messages for all those who believe, for the believers, let's say. إِنَّ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And in your own creation, and in that of the creatures he scatters on earth, there are signs, messages, ayat, for people who are endowed with certainty. لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. And in the succession of night and day, and in the means of subsistence, which God sends down from the skies, giving life thereby to the earth after it had been lifeless, and in the change of the winds, in all this there are ayat for people who use their reason. Ayatun liqawmin yaqilun. These messages, tilka al-ayat, those messages actually, those ayat of God, we convey unto you, setting for the truth. In what other speech, in what other discourse then, if not in God and in his ayat, will they then believe? So the first ayah is two disconnected letters, ha and mim. In the Quran, as we've seen previously, 29 surahs, which is about a fourth of the Quranic surahs, begin with these mysterious letters that are called muqatta'at, disjointed, disconnected, because although they are written as one word, they are read as if you're spelling separate letters. And out of the 28 letters of the Arabic alphabet, I'm not saying 29 because I'm not counting the Hamza, 14, which is exactly the half of the alphabet, is used in this letters. So half of the alphabet occurs as disconnected letters, and always at the beginning of the surahs. And they can appear alone or in combination, like from two to 5 letters, and there are 29 combinations. And one opinion is that these letters stand for words or phrases related to God and his attributes. For instance, Ha would refer to Hakim or Halim, Mim to Malik or Muhaymin, or the names of God. And some of the companions, like Ibn Abbas and Mas'ud radiallahu anhuma, are said to have favored this view. There are other commentators like Fakhruddin Razi, who noted that he notes many opinions regarding these letters. He also mentions that Arabs would name things after letters. For instance, we all know about Noon, with the Nooni. Noon refers to fish, Ghayn to clouds, and things like that. But in fact, we don't know exactly what each combination means. What we know for sure, though, is that Hamim is an ayah. It is the first ayah of Surah Al-Jathiya, of Surah 45. And I cannot emphasize enough this Quranic notion of ayah. It's extremely important because it is key to conscious ubudiyah, to living as ibadullah, as abd, as servant of God, consciously, and living in a state of ihsan, not only of iman and Islam, in a state of belief and surrender, but in a state of ihsan, of consciously living in the presence of the divine. Not only that, but living in ghafla of the ayat and ignoring them has very serious consequences. So it's not neutral. Like if I am conscious of the ayat, I benefit, but if I ignore them, then it's okay. No, if I ignore them, if I'm unaware of them, then there are very dire consequences to that. And in this Surah Al-Jathiya, in ayah 7, which inshallah next week, bi'idhnillah, we'll be able to reflect on, we're told, woe unto every sinful self-deceivers who hears God's ayat when they are conveyed to him, and yet, as though he has not heard them, persist in his haughty disdain, istikbar, which is pretending to be bigger than you are actually. Hence, announce unto him grievous suffering. So, ignoring or being unaware of the ayat leads to suffering. Suffering here in this world and in the next. So this is a very, very serious matter to know what these ayat are. If you remember in Surah Yusuf, which was Surah 12, we've learned to see beyond the apparent, to realize that everything is a sign bearing meanings beyond itself. Everything is an ayah. Ayah means it indicates meanings pertaining to alam al-ghaib, to the realm of the unseen. And we realized when we were reflecting on Surah Yusuf that actually this world, what we see and experience here and now, is fleeting, is impermanent, always flowing from alim al-ghaib back to alim al-ghaib, from the world of unseen back to the world of unseen. And so the more we reflected on this, the more you realize that this world is impermanent, and the permanent and real source is that alim al-ghaib, where everything flows from and goes back to. And that's why the sign, the ayah aspect of things, of events, of phenomena is so important. It's so significant because the ayah aspect or the ayat, they bear permanent meanings. Things themselves are impermanent, but they indicate, they point to permanent meanings, beautiful messages from our Rabb, messages of rahmah, of love, of healing, of the divine names. And when we perceive the ayat within beings, within events, within phenomena, within things going on around us and within us, then we can see how they witness the phenomena, the ayat, witness that everything proceeds from one and only one source, and that's true tawheed, a genuine tawheed. And then we will hear the creation glorify the maker. We will hear their tasbihat, and we'll hear them declaring his beautiful attributes. They declare them to those who can see and hear, and we will be able to see and hear, and we will participate in those glorification. And we said that that is living with ihsan. Living with this consciousness is living with ihsan. So in our reading of Surah Yusuf alayhi salam, the main message was to teach us how to live as abd, as a servant of God, as a worshipper of our Rabb, with ihsan, meaning with awareness of the ayat, the signs of his rububiyyah in the world. So we understood ihsan meaning living in the presence of the divine, and the muhsin is the one who sees wajh Allah in everything, the face of God, the face of everything that looks to God, that looks to akhirah, that looks to the beautiful divine attributes in everything. And the muhsin is the one who sees the beautiful names everywhere, in everything, the good and the bad. That's the good news. Because what seems bad to the ghafil, to the heedless, is meaningful to the muhsin. So the muhsin's interaction with life, with the world, is very different from that of the heedless, the ghafil. And what does that mean? How does the muhsin come to this consciousness? This is what we asked at the very end of Surah Yusuf, which is a very beautiful surah, which also is the story of every human being potentially. So how does the muhsin come to this consciousness? How does someone become a muhsin? Because he's a muhsin after he attains a certain consciousness. How does he see, or does she see, the beautiful divine names in everything? Because things, beings, events, and their interconnections are all ayat, they are signs, and that was the key, that everything is an ayah and sign. And in the following surah, which was Surah 13, Surah Al-Ra'd, we learned how everything around us, all the so-called natural phenomena, are ayat, they are signs. So it was more specifically about how everything is a sign, how to read the signs. And we learned how to read the signs, how to see them and hear them. And in Surah Al-Ra'd, we were provided with the preliminary tarbiyah that leads to being muhsins. Of course, the Quran provides us with that education, with that tarbiyah, but we need to practice it, to perform it in our life. And the more we practice it, the more it is revealed unto us. It layers and layers uncover to us, and we become closer and closer. In our heart, we become more and more certain. The more we surrender and practice and perform this reading of the ayat, and we can only read them if we internalize their messages, because if we don't take the messages and experience them and internalize them, it becomes only information. It never becomes ma'rifah. And so with that tarbiyah of perceiving everything around us and within us in the world as signs, as ayat, we get the closer and closer to ihsan if we practice it. And since it's not easy to start with one's own life from inside out, like Yusuf alayhi salam, because we're so much invested emotionally, we cannot, it's not easy to detach ourselves from our illusory perceptions. It's not easy to separate in the beginning between our perception of the facts and the facts themselves, the ayat, and what they truly tell us. And so in Surah Al-Ra'd, we were taught, or we are taught, because it's still there, to first learn how to see everything around us, surrounding us in the afaq, in the outer world, as ayat, like thunder and water and etc. Because it's easier to start there. And when we become fluent in that language, to read and speak and listen and understand the ayat in the outer world, then it becomes easier and easier to practice them in our inner world, to the extent that we are willing to surrender that those ego illusions about who we are and what life is about, to surrender our misperception of what things are, what the facts are. Now in this surah, in Surah Al-Jathiya, Surah 45, we are taught that not only it is crucial to connect with the ayat in the creation, which is the message, one of the main messages of the Quran, but at the same time, it is detrimental to ignore them or remain unaware of the ayat. So it's telling us it's very important, like you have a choice. You connect with the ayat and you learn the truth and the meaning and purpose of life. And that's the path to paradise, to getting close to God in this world and the next. And if you don't, it's not a neutral position. It can get us to hell. May Allah protect us. And there are stages of connecting to the ayat and understanding and heeding their messages. But there is no option of totally ignoring them, because that leads to suffering or self-deprivation. The suffering comes from depriving ourselves, because the answer to all what we are seeking in this life, all what we're striving to obtain through various means and some of us are really working hard in this life, is actually all the answer to all our needs is in the ayat of the Quran, which refers us to the ayat in creation. This is very important. We cannot understand and be truly reading and understanding the ayat of the Quran if we never follow the guidance when the ayah is talking, Quranic ayah is talking about the creation. We have to go out and interact with that ayah in the creation according to the guidance of the Quran. We have to read them together. That's why the Quran is so incredibly amazing, how it is so precious and valuable, because it transforms how we interact with ourselves, with the world, with everyone around us. We start seeing things for what they are. We start seeing the purpose of their creation and their meanings, instead of just assuming things assuming meanings without questioning them. And whatever we assume, we can never be sure, and we can never know, because only whoever created everything can know their meaning. We cannot. We have no access to it. It's beyond our perception, beyond our limitations. And we are told this, as I just mentioned, in ayah 7 and 8 of this surah, when it says, "Woe unto every sinful self-deceiver who hears God's ayat when they are conveyed to him, and yet, as though he had not heard them, persists in his haughty disdain, hence announce unto him grievous suffering." And this sinful self-deceiver, the sin here is to deceive oneself and pretend as though there were no ayat, or as though we didn't have the need for divine guidance to figure out the meaning of our life and what we should be doing. So it's like we're running in one direction, and we think the faster we go, it's the better it is. But like, what if we are going away from what we need? The faster we go, the worse it will become. So before we walk or run, we need to first figure out our istiqamah, our direction in life. And that's what the Quran, divine guidance, is about. So back to...
Yamina, just a very kind of tiny footnote. Somebody had said that, if you're on the wrong train, running in the opposite direction won't help you in the train. You have to get off.
Yes, definitely. Because sometimes we think, I'm on the train, why should I get off? Yeah, but if it's taking you away from where you want to be, then it's not a good idea to stay there. But we do this very, very often because we think we know what we need. We have plans for our life, but we never truly questions what those plans are. And if I were to leave this world, if I were to die, if we want to use the word, tomorrow, in a month time, would I still be doing the same thing with the same passion at the expense of something else?
What is the word for sinful self-deceiver?
We'll, inshallah, we will be coming to that ayah next week, inshallah. And we will look at the Arabic words as well. So inshallah, we'll go back to the letters Hamim. And we said we don't know exactly what they refer to, but there is one thing we are sure about, is that this is an ayah. This is the first ayah of this surah. And this particular combination is repeated in 7 different and consecutive surahs. So remember, if something is repeated, it means it's very important. It's like we repeatedly eat food and drink water. Why? Because we need them. We need water more than food. We need air more than water and food. So the more something is needed, the more it is repeated. And we don't say we drank water yesterday, so no need to drink it again, because we constantly need food, water, and air. And so here there is something going on, that these, generally the disconnected letters are, like I said, 29 times repeated in the Quran, and Hamim is repeated 7 times, subhanAllah. So repetition is a sign that these letters carry some crucial meanings. And among the many meanings that they may carry and that we don't know for sure, one is certain, is that they are ayat, meanings they are signs, they are isharat, they carry messages. And what is remarkable about these huruf al-muqatta'a, these disconnected letters like Hamim, is that they are clearly signs. I mean, letters are signs. They are signs in a system called language. In the sense that they are signs, clearly signs, in the sense that they have no significance in themselves. Ha on its own, we say, what does it mean? You see, we stop. We say, what does it mean? It's not even, we can't read them together. We have to read it ha, mim. We're spelling the letters. And that's exactly what a sign is. It has no significance in itself. Their only meanings comes from what that may be attributed to them as signs to something else. So they demonstrate what a sign is about. They embody the sign function clearly. For instance, let me not go because we did this before. So the words, when we have watini or zaytuni, we are not as puzzled because we think we know what teen, fig, and zaytun, olive is. But when there are letters, when they're pure signs, then it makes us stop and we don't know what to do now. When we see words written, we may get stuck in them. We may think, okay, teen, zaytun, and carry on. I understood what it's telling me. And so what we did, if I don't ask, so why is God saying this? Why is it referring to fig and olives? What is the fig and olive doing here? What is it indicating? Then I do not go beyond them. I get stuck in the literal words and I cannot move to the signified message. I'm not open to it. I'm not even asking questions. Even if someone tells me the message, it remains as information. It doesn't transform me because I don't feel the need for it. But when we hear words, when we hear letters like this, we're more likely to immediately move to what does it mean? What is the signified meaning? Of course, if we have the intention and awareness to do so. So when we hear Hamim, it feels like we are being shaken in order to draw our attention to something different, something remarkable. Because we say Hamim, and either I can ignore it and just carry on to the second one because I feel I don't understand it, or stay there and say, but this is an ayah. and I don't understand anything. These are just 2 letters for me. And so it's by being just 2 letters, just 2 signs, it's like telling us to stop taking words for granted and think that we cannot figure out everything ourselves. So Hamim is such an unusual speech, or not only Hamim, but all the disconnected letters for that matter. Such an unusual speech, especially in spoken, because it's like spelling letters, that it interrupts our habitual way of listening and reading the Quran and taking it for granted, like I know the words, therefore I understood. And it invites us to reflect on what an ayah is, what a sign is. So this unusual speech is like stretching out our conventional limits. It's making us ponder, reflect on the function of ayah, on the meaning of ayah. It makes us also realize that there are so many things that are well beyond our reach. So from the very beginning of the surah, we are put back into our place. We're reminded that we are limited beings with limited resources and extremely, extremely limited knowledge, even if we think we know. But actually, all what we know is so limited, because not only there are things we know and there are things we don't know, but there are even more things that we don't even know that we don't know, things that we are unaware of. And it is when we become aware of this limitedness of ours that we realize how much we are in need of guidance, in need of wisdom, in need of being imparted knowledge. And we start truly feeling that need. And this unusual and strange speech, these disconnected letters like Hamim, and their being designated as the opening ayah, wakes us up from the beginning of the surah. Sorry, that's the opening ayah. Yeah, the opening ayah of this surah. It wakes us up from our illusion of knowing. We think we know. In our ghafla, we think that we can just read the words and figure out the literal meaning and study its semantics. Et voila, we got it, we know. But it's not true. That's only the beginning. Once we know what it means, then we should be sitting, stopping, pausing, and saying, so what is this? What does God, my Rabb, mean with this? What is he? What compassion? What messages is he revealing unto us? Is he sending to us? Because the literal meaning itself is a sign to the revealed, the ghaibi messages, the messages coming from the unseen. Subhanallah. So our compassionate Rabb is teaching us what an ayah is and how it functions right from the beginning of the surah. And so through Hamim, our Rabb is teaching us that an ayah has no meaning in itself. It is there to indicate something other than in itself, something beyond itself, something much bigger than itself. For instance, something going on in the creation, the succession of night and day. Okay, we understood, we can look, we can go and watch it. We go through the day and night and we watch it. We can even learn how everything works, the sun, the earth, and everything. But that's the ayah part. We have to go to listen to the message that these ayat are indicating, which is divine wisdom. There is something wisdom and all-encompassing power and might, wisdom, knowledge going on here. Compassion is going on here. Rububiyyah is going on here. And that's well beyond the literal meaning of the ayah. So by using separate letters like Hamim rather than whole words, the Quran attracts our attention and interrupts how we look at language without thinking. And it's almost like it forces us to pause and reflect on the meaning and function of an ayah, signs. And the Quran achieves this all dynamically. If we truly attentively listen to the Quran as God's guidance and its impact on us, then we feel baffled. And feeling baffled is part of what is being revealed to us when we are listening to the divine guidance. If I ignore the feeling baffled, I'm ignoring an ayah that is being revealed through my interconnection with the Quran, with this ayah Hamim. I just ignore it and carry on, as if my purpose is to find out the meaning of all the words. But the first ayah, I read it and I feel baffled. So now it is in this interaction that the meaning, the ayah is going to start functioning and indicating meanings beyond itself. And if we listen to the Quran as our Rabb is teaching us what we do not know, something of great importance, something crucial for the purpose of our life, then we will realize how powerful this ayah Hamim is. Even when we don't know for sure what it is alluding to, at least we realize that it comes from beyond. This is a tanzil, sending down from the divine. And that's what the second ayah says, Tanzilul Kitabi in Allahil Aziz al-Hakim. The bestowal, the sending down from on high of the divine book is, of the book, let's say, it doesn't say divine kitab, of the book is from God, the Almighty, the Wise. Almighty, it means He has power over all things. He controls everything. Wise, whatever He creates, whatever He does, He creates with purpose and meaning. Nothing is in vain. مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. Nothing is without purpose of meaning. Therefore, what comes to...
I just wanted to add something to just to reiterate your point about the importance of the first verse, Hamim.
Yes.
It is really, really crucial for us to recognize our neediness to open up for guidance, because, as you were just saying, because the more we realize, as you had said, I really find it very important. The more we realize that we don't know and we are in need of guidance, the more we will be willing to receive guidance. The more we think,
become receptive.
Yeah. The more we think we know, I know why I'm here. I just need a little bit more information, but I, on the whole, have a handle on my life. I know why, what I'm doing here, and so on. The more we think we know without guidance brought by the prophets, the more unreceptive we are to this guidance. And it's interesting because as you were talking, I thought of this parable from a completely different context, and then please forgive me if I'm kind of distracting from the subject, but you know this parable by a professor who gives it in a different context, the parable of a person who is in the jungle and he's looking for a hammer and he finds a gun, and he has never had to kill before in his life for food or anything, so he's looking for a hammer. So he grabs the hammer, the gun, and holds it from the opposite direction and starts hitting things with it, and it's perfect. It's really cracking the nuts and whatever he wants to hit really well. And then he's
using it as a hammer.
Yeah, he treated it as a hammer, and then he goes back to his people, say, I found the perfect hammer. Look, it's so hard, and it's kind of really good at nailing things. This is a perfect hammer. Now that person, the more he's confident that he figured this thing out, the less he will be receptive to somebody coming out of town and saying, hey, actually it's not a hammer at all, it's something completely different. You could actually hunt with this. If somebody said like that to him, you'd be like, no, like, we know what we're doing. We proved, we They have proven it, empirically.
Pragmatically, yes, he has proven it. It does work like a hammer, but it's much more than a hammer.
Yeah, it's not actually a hammer. It's something else. So the more the person is tentative about it, the more like, I'm using it this way, but I'm not sure if this is what it is for, the more that person will be open to the cues from the outside. Hear that person from outside, if representing the prophet for our purposes here. So it's just, and then I read recently something from Ibn Arabi. He says the person who will understand the Quran best is not the most knowledgeable about things, but it's the person who's most humble, that he's most kind of willing to admit that he's in need of being guided by the Creator. So just to reiterate that it's so important to enter into this the surah from this gate of Hamim, because Hamim, with that unknown mysterious letters, we can inshallah be shaken up and say, wait a second, I actually don't know. I don't know. I need to be instructed in the most kind of profound meaning of my life and the world around me. Yes, I know how to drive, I know how to fix dinner, I know how to do this, do that, but Hamim is kind of calling me to a deeper understanding. You can be using it as hammer, you have a use for your life and you do things in life, you're functioning, but then you're not here just to function. You are here to actually discover something much bigger. Yeah.
That openness is very, very crucial.
I think it's a very delicate topic, because so that quote that you posted with the sinful, where we will next time talk about. So there's always this balance to keep on. Is it? I mean, so the approach that we have here in Receiving Nur is to not be dogmatic. So it's not about following some rules that someone else posted, and of course that's not what you mean. So when you are saying so, but it could be understood in that way, because someone is coming and saying what it is really.
No, this someone is not anyone. It's God. God. There are rules. Yes, there are rules, definitely. But these rules are not anyone is coming and bringing me. This is God speaking to me. So yes, there will be rules as well. Even the rules of reading the Quran and rules in conducting our lives within some boundaries. For instance, what's good and what's bad, we don't know. We think we know, like the hammer, but actually we're much more than a physical being. We're much more than just animals. Human beings means much more than just intellect and emotions. There is something called, we're conscious beings. There's something more. We're conscious of our emotions and feelings, and all our physical body changes, our thoughts change, our mind, we change our mind about things, our feelings and emotions change, but there is something that's always there that we call it the ruh, the soul. And so we need something more. And when we realize that neediness, when we are open to listen, then we surrender. And yes, there are rules, because this is the way the world has been created. Things, when we are not following the rules led by the divine, we are following other rules of society, of myself, but we're always following something. So the point is to realize that the rules that the society, or whatever the rules are, they always go through my own, I choose and confirm, or I choose without confirming. I just do it because everyone does it, or because I like it. And the difference with the surrenderer, the muhsin, is that he chooses to follow the divine guidance, the rule, the divine rules, the divine will. But it's a choice. It's not dogmatic. It's a conscious choice. The other one is not a conscious choice. The alternatives are not conscious choices. And they are choices made after witnessing and confirming evidences in the world, in ourselves. That's what the ayat is about. That's why the ayat are so important. Because, and of course, to see the ayat and understand them is part of this, but there is also the willingness and the intention to surrender, to accept the authority, let me say. When we go through this ayat that we are reading today, inshallah, it's we can see if there is an indication to answers to this, inshallah. Does it make sense, Andrea?
I'm looking forward. Very interesting topics, because it's an interesting balance, right? I mean, question what to do with rules and what is the difference in the approach.
There is no way of life without rules. We are human beings. We live in this physical universe world, and we follow rules. Either we follow rules haphazardly, or we choose rules according to our whims, even when we are following society or something, or we follow the divine guidance because we are convinced, because we did witness the ayat and we confirm them, and we are at peace with them. We are satisfied with the divine guidance. I feel the need, and it's just like what Isra was saying, that openness comes after I realize my need and accept it. That humility is very important. That's why those who do not follow the ayat, the guidance of the, they are mustakbir. Mustakbir is the one who pretends to be bigger than he is. He pretends to know. But in fact, we don't. But so when God says this is the path to happiness, I say no. Happiness for me is to eat chocolate all the time. Okay, go ahead and do that. I'm just giving a silly example, but like, so it's not only eating Allah's rizq consciously, but also I cannot go say I'm eating pork and drinking wine consciously, because there is a limit. The limit of the halal is huge. But I cannot say I am eating consciously, therefore I am a muhsin, but I go outside the boundary and I say I will drink wine consciously. God said you can't, but why did he say you can't? Do you or do we accept that he knows and we don't know? That he's our creator and he's the one who's taking care of us? Then if we do, then we surrender to his rule. And then you start, once you follow the rule, then you start, you don't have it's not the reason why we are not drinking wine. But subhanallah, all my life in the West, I've seen so many musibat, so many problems coming from this alcohol and getting drunk business. So every time I see things like this around me, I say, Alhamdulillah that we have Sharia, Alhamdulillah that we have boundaries, because otherwise, why not? So Alhamdulillah that God knows us. He's the one who created us, and he knows us, and he knows our weaknesses, our needs, and so he took care of everything. So I don't have to think about what will happen. I just surrender, and once we surrender, it's like you get on the ship, and the ship is, you don't have to swim in the storm. The ship will take you. And someone who's never seen a ship, like the people of Noah, they say, what do you mean this will go on the water? Because it doesn't seem like plausible. It's only because now we know, we've seen ships going on water that we believe it. But otherwise, there is no logical, rational relationship between water and ship. Why should the ship float and we don't? And we fill the ship with people and it floats. Subhanallah. So that's the mystery of surrendering and the beauty of surrendering. Alhamdulillah.
Sister Yamina, just to go back to the previous quote from Ibn Arabi, I found the place where it was mentioned. He actually says understanding the Quran depends on the person being unlettered, ummiyah. And it fits really well with this beginning of the surah with Hamim, because you all of a sudden feel like an unlettered person. He says it depends on, I'm reading from a second source, not directly the Arabic, but it says, according to him, understanding the Quran does not depend upon the knowledge or intellectual power of the interpreter, but upon his unletteredness, ummiyah, and receptivity to divine instruction.
I will add that, okay, when we come to it, inshallah, I think it was the 4th or 5th ayah, we can talk about it. So here is تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز الحكيم, the bestowal, descending from on high of the book is from God, the Almighty, the Wise. Therefore, like, it makes me ask, like, how do we know? How can we know that He is indeed Almighty, Wise? How do we know that the book can only be sent by the Almighty, the Wise? And one thing that comes to mind is that the creation speaks. The creation is the witness. Why? Because there are ayat everywhere. So it's not like the Quran just claiming to be the divine word, divine speech. It's saying, go and listen, look around, you will confirm that this is the truth. But how do we know that? How do we know that the creation speaks? How does it speak? How do we read the ayat? And how do we know how, like, to decipher them, to hear their messages? Through the Quran. It's divine revelation. It tells us how to do. It's like it gives us a map and it says, go and check the map. If you give me a map of, for instance, a house, and I go into the house and it's exactly the instructions, let's say, not a map, not necessarily a map, and you have instructions, and you go left after I don't know how many feet, and then you will find a closet, and then I open, there is truly a closet, and you open there and you find a jewelry box there. So I say, okay, whoever gave me the these instructions are true. They are correct. What confirms the instruction is that the house is exactly as it is described. That is why if I do not follow the guidance of the Quran in my interaction with the word as ayat, I cannot go back and confirm the truthfulness of the message of the Quran. So from one point of view, the Quran explains to us the meaning of the ayat in creation. From another perspective, the ayat in the creation confirm the truthfulness of the Quranic message. They go together and they confirm each other and they explain each other. They complement each other. So how do we know how to decipher the ayat? Through the Quranic revelation. And that means the maker, God, our Rabb, the maker of everything, the creator of everything, knows and he speaks. He knows everything. He creates everything here and now. And so he speaks. He speaks in the Quran, and he reveals the purpose and the meaning of his creation. And we realize that he's speaking through his creation as well. And the creation confirms the message of the Quran. And so we realize that whoever is sending the scripture here and now is almighty and wise. He has the power over everything, and he's wise. He created everything meaningfully, purposely. And at the same time, we also realize that only the one who is almighty and wise, only one whose might and wisdom encompasses everything can send the book, the scripture, that reveals the meaning and purpose of creation, the purpose of our life. And it is no wonder that the third ayah talks about the ayat, the signs in the creation. And we are told, إِنَّ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. In the heavens as well on earth, there are certainly signs, ayat, messages for the believers, for those who are willing to believe. And so there are degrees of looking at this. We can look at you can see that it's just saying, in the heavens and on earth, it's open to us. There are many ways of looking at the heavens and the earth. And it's not only, what matters the most is that humility, that openness, that feeling of the need for knowing, for guidance. That's the most important parameter. And then once we have that, the more we witness the ayat, the more our certainty, our faith and iman and certainty will increase. But if we don't have that humility, if we don't have that need, and that it's not only the need, because everyone has the need, but not only we are aware of the need and we surrender, because I may be aware of my need and I say I will take care of it on my own, or I will perish, but I will not surrender. This is human being. We've been given free will, and we do it often at our own detriment, but we still can do it. So what matters is that humility, that openness, that willingness, that intention to surrender to the divine guidance. Surrendering to the divine guidance means I accept it. It means I practice it. It means this is my life. I have no other option. This is my best option and I go for it. And then once I have this, or to the extent that I have this attitude, then I may learn, like we learned lots of things at school, and what come to my mind, maybe most of us, when we see samawat wal ard, yes, it is, we look at how everything is awesome, beautiful, the seasons and everything, but also we can think of particular situations, like, for instance, what came to my mind was the circumference of the earth, how huge it is, and the speed. This is always amazes me, because we're all sitting in our homes now, but actually the earth, our home, is going very fast, like it's over 1,600 kilometers per hour, which is like 10,000 miles per hour. Can you imagine? We feel like everything is not moving, motionless, but actually we're going very fast. And the earth, it's not only rotating around itself, but it's also, it has an orbit. It revolves around the sun. And the orbit of the earth around the sun is something like over 19 million miles. We can't even imagine these distances. I can't. I just know that I feel that something huge. And of course, this is huge, but compared with the galaxy, it's nothing. It just shows how tiny our home is, and all these things, you know, we dramatize everything, and just because we forget, we are disconnected from the reality of life, of how tiny we are, and that we are here not for a purpose. And so when we are focused on our purpose, everything else becomes is easier to deal with. But when we forget our purpose, then we start dealing with nonsense in the sense that it will not lead to beneficial fruits in this life and in akhirah, lasting benefits. And so the earth revolves also around the sun as a speed of 30 kilometers or something per second. Can you imagine? All these motions within motion, and we're sitting here, we don't feel anything. Subhanallah. It can't be. These are all ayats when you start. In the beginning, here, we're not at the stage yet of reasoning too much, but you feel the awe. There is no way not to feel awe at all this system. And the whole solar system is also moving and traveling very fast, like hundreds of kilometers per second. And there is the whole galaxy is also moving, the Milky Way. Subhanallah, it's just amazing. And so all these things are, you feel, if for those who are willing to believe, they feel that these are ayat, these are indications that point to not only power and might, but also wisdom and knowledge. It's knowledge, but it's wisdom also. Everything is on purpose. Everything is related, interconnected to everything else in a precise way, in a very delicate, balanced way, and everything is harmoniously working together. So these are all ayat for people who are willing to believe. And something that we always ask, or like when we're in science classes, like what would happen if the earth were a little bit closer to the sun or a little bit further from the sun? Well, if it's a little bit closer, the surface of the earth will become warmer, which means things will start to melt. The whole, the water and many things, all the balance will be disrupted. And because everything is in balance, because the earth, everything within the earth and the earth together with the other planets within the solar system, they're all interconnected in a very balanced way. When we change one thing, it affects the whole balance. So a slight change, for instance, in distance will change the temperature, and that would affect the entirety of the whole system. For instance, the water cycle would be disrupted, and lots of things will change. There will be more clouds, for instance, if it's warmer. There will be maybe more clouds, less light, and things will all change. And if it's too close, there will be maybe no life. It will be just too hot.
And just a footnote that these numbers are so like minutely precise that there's this whole new field of study where people are studying, the scientists are talking about fine tuning of the universe. So like when you say like if the earth was a little bit closer, that a little bit is like 10 to the power of 60, or like 1 divided by 10 to the power of 60 or something, like huge like very huge numbers that indicate very small range. Like if it was a little bit closer, and that's not 0.5 or 0.005, 0.00000, like you put 60 zeros, or in some cases these the thing about gravity or this, it even goes up to like 10 to the power of 200. Like it's less than a hair's breadth change in gravity, or the location of the earth, or spinning of, like, all of it are so kind of delicate that even the most kind of stubborn scientists, if you will, are kind of even reluctantly saying, well, it looks like this was purposely done. There's no way that all of these ratios are kind of fitting perfectly for life.
Everything is balanced, everything is working in harmony, and it's very intricate and very delicate, very precise. SubhanAllah. The more you get to know it, the more you want to prostrate in awe and in surrender. And all these are signs, like so much that the human mind can't even grasp. They are beyond our grasping. So the heart, that we feel it, the human mind can't grasp. The heart, that's why it's about believer. It's for the believers. Because the heart says there is something here. These are signs testifying that this whole system, this whole universe is the creation, is the making of one and only one, whose power comprehends or encompasses everything. And then you start feeling the truth of Tawheed when we consciously realize that in the heavens and in earth there are certainly enough signs and ayat and messages for the believers, for those who are. They are signs for the believers, meaning that although the signs are meant for everyone, all human beings, but only those who are willing to believe can reach the right conclusion, can accept those feelings of awe and act on them. Everyone feels that, but some people say, no, I'm not interested. So what? Okay. They don't want to. The feelings are new ayat as well. They are also signs telling us that something is going on here, but say, okay, it's awesome, and doesn't want to pursue those ayat and those messages. So those who are willing to believe, they pursue it, they're open to benefit from those ayat. The ayat, this ayah in the Quran, that is indicating the ayah in the heavens and earth, which also brings out responses and ayat and messages through our hearts. We receive the messages of awe, that there is might going on here. Truly, this is the work of someone mighty and wise. So to the heedless and the stubborn, the existence of the signs are inapplicable, let's say, like irrelevant, not because the signs are not there, not because the signs are not meaningful, but because if I don't have the intention to listen to the signs, the message comes from me. We all feel the awe, but I don't want to acknowledge it. And next, we move to our own creation, and that of animals. So in ayah 4, we told, وَفِي خَلْقِكُمْ وَمَا يَبُثُّ مِنْ دَابَةٍ آيَاتٌ لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. And in your own creation, and in that of all the animals which he scatters over the earth, there are signs, that are ayat for people who are endowed with certainty. So you see, the previous ayah was general, in the heavens as well on earth. There are ayat for the believers, but here is more details. In your own creation, and in that of the animals which he scatters over the earth, there are ayat for people, not for the believers. It was the believers, a noun. Here it's a verb for people who yuqinun. In English, you have to say people with certainty, but in Arabic, it's a verb. Certainty, having certainty is a verb. يعني ليس للموقنين. بل لقوم يوقنون, not to the people of certainty, but the people who practice the certainty, who work for it. There is more conscious action involved here. And this iqan, this yaqeen, is related to the ayat within the self. Whereas the previous ayat for the believers were in the world out there, in the heavens and the earth. Now it's in ourselves. So iman starts with contemplating the ayat in the outer world, in the afaq, whereas iqan and yaqeen, certainty, requires contemplating the ayat within ourselves, outer and inner, but it's related to ourselves. And that is a higher degree of iman. That's degree of certainty. Because at this stage, we experience something within, and that is more certain, that is more vivid, more effective in moving the heart than witnessing outside only. And of course, we go back, and then we can also experience the ayat in the outer world from an inner perspective, how we feel about it. But that comes later. And of course, if we consider the human body only, let alone the emotions and everything, our psychology and everything, just the human body would be amazed. As we told in the Quran, ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور. No fault can you find, can you see in the creation of the Rahman, of the compassionate, and turn your vision once more. Can you see any flaw? We are told in the Quran, in ayah 3 of Surah 67. So here we have many physicians among us, they can tell us. But if we think, whatever we think of, like from the structure of a human cell to the creation of the human eye, our hands, even a single hair, they're all amazing ayat. Even if we look at the veins and vessels in the human body, I mean, the nerves, the nervous system, the thousands of kilometers, and the way we were reading something with Isra, how the brain, Isra, you can say that how the brain has been created so that the tissue is all folded in a way that we have this huge surface all encompassed in, like in the skull, it can all fit there, subhanallah. And all the systems, and all these things are interrelated again in a very complicated way among themselves and with the outer world, with the outer environment. And we have so many systems, the digestive system, the respiratory system, the brain system, the immune system, and each of these systems is a system within themselves, but connected to all the others. And all these things, they're working in harmony with each other and with the outer environment. It's just mind-blowing. And all the senses, if we add to this, the senses, the feelings, the emotions, subhanAllah, the memory, and without memory, can you imagine, like without memory, we wouldn't know who we are, what our name is, so many things that we take for granted. All these constitute indeed signs to power, to mightiness, to wisdom, to knowledge, to purpose. And what is true for humankind is also relevant for hundreds of thousands of living creatures, all the animals that the ayah is mentioning, from microscopic living beings to huge animals, all with very, very diverse characteristics, structures, but mainly they are all have also life, and life itself is totally another topic on its own, subhanallah. And they all bear witness to the divine signs that reflect might and wisdom, which is in turn confirmed that the maker of all is indeed Almighty, wise, Azizul Hakim. And therefore, the one who is sending this Quran to us and revealing the meaning of these signs in his creation can only be Al-Aziz Al-Hakim, the Almighty was. Nothing else can reveal the meaning of everything to us. So the fact that other animals are mentioned right after our own creation in this ayah, from one point of view, we can see it as when human beings realize when we realize our outer and inner abilities and potentials, when we witness that indeed we've been created in the في أحسن تقويم, in the best of forms. How do you say أحسن تقويم? Then our body,
yeah, best of forms, best of stature,
in the best of form, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Then our body, our senses, our emotions, our intellect, our being conscious, all these things are confirmed that we indeed have been created في أحسن تقويم. Then we look around at the myriads of animals spread all over the earth, as we're told in this ayah, and we realize that only human beings have been gifted with this special characteristic, especially the intellect and conscious and being consciousness. And because of this intellect and consciousness, he is the divine. He has the potential to be the divine addressee, to whom all the angels were made to prostrate. And we realize that human being has not been destined to live like animals. They don't have intellect, so it's okay for them to eat, drink, and enjoy themselves, to make a living. But for human beings to live solely, only like animals, it's not fulfilling their purpose. Because human beings crave meaning, they crave purpose. And when we live that way, there is a huge emptiness within us that nothing can fill in until we surrender and seek that guidance and follow it. So after contemplating our own creation and comparing it with the creation of animals, we become certain. We have yaqeen that we have been blessed and chosen above many other beings. That's in the Quran we're told that karama, that takreem, that makes us the Khalifa, the addressee of the divine. But only when we actually listen to the divine guidance and follow it, we can fulfill that potential of ours that is beyond, that makes us beyond other animals. And in the next ayah we're told, واختلاف الليل والنهار وما أنزل الله من السماء من رزق فأحيا به الأرض بعد موتها وتصريف الرياح آيات لقوم يعقلون. And in the succession of night and day, and in the means of subsistence, of provision, let's say, which God sends down from the skies, giving life thereby to the earth after it had been lifeless, and in the change of the winds. In all this, there are ayat for people who use their reason. And again here, using your reason, who reason, for people who reason, yaqilun, who reason, who understand, who grasp. So now the ayat mentioned are even more intricate, more detailed, and it's more, can you see, about dynamic phenomena, interactions. The ayat are dynamic here, succession of day and night, provision sent through water, giving life to earth after its death, change of the winds. So there are things moving. You can see the dynamics going on here. And all these are ayat for who? For people who reason, who know how to reason. And the Quran does teaches us how to reason, especially if you remember in Surah Al-Ra'd. And this means that people who do not or cannot deduce, cannot see, cannot understand the messages of these phenomena. They can't see that they are ayat. They don't see any meaning beyond themselves. They can't see how they are ayat. These people do not know how to reason properly. As we're told in the Quran, وَمَا يَعْقِلُهَا إِلَّا الْعَالِمُونَ. And no one can reason and grasp their meaning except the knowledgeable. And that knowledge is given to us in the Quran. We're told in Surah Al-Ankabut, which is Surah 24, from Ayah 42 to 42 to 44. We are told, truly God knows whatever it is that people invoke instead of him, for he alone is almighty, wise. إن الله يعلم ما يدعون من دونه من شيء وهو العزيز الحكيم. And so we propound, we draw these metaphors to people, but none can reason, can grasp their meaning except the knowledgeable. No, you cannot reason. They don't know how to reason. And hence, it is certain that God has created the heavens and the earth in accordance with truth. For behold, in this creation, there is an ayah indeed for all the believers. So it means that those who cannot grasp these meanings, the meanings of the ayat, their reasoning is deficient, especially when it comes to questioning premises. And that's why we're told in the Quran, have they not traveled about the earth, letting their hearts reason and their ears hear? Yet truly it is not the eyes that grow blind, but it is the heart that are in the breasts that grow blind. So it says, لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ فَتَكُونَ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ يَعْقِلُونَ بِهَا. So if someone doesn't have that openness, is not aware of his needs, he starts with the premise that, for instance, it assumes that everything is permanent, but it's not true. Everything is impermanent. Start with the premise that I know everything, but it's not true. I don't know anything. Start with the premise that I am sufficient, but I am not sufficient. I can fall dead right now and I cannot sustain myself. I cannot sustain my breathing I have no idea how I'm breathing. So once we accept all those false premises, and then we start reasoning, even if our reasoning is correct, the outcome will be false. And so what the Quran teaches us is you cannot just reason using premises that you never question, false premises. You have to start with, you have to be grounded in the truth first for your reasoning to bear fruits. And that's what we learn from the Quran, subhanAllah. So reasoning is mentioned after Iman. The first, the ayat in the heavens and the earth were for the believers. And then our own creation and the creation of animals spread all over the earth were for those who have yaqeen, certainty. And now these are ayat for people who reason properly. And so the reasoning is mentioned after Iman and Iqan, yaqeen, certainty, probably because reasoning enhances both Iman, faith, and certainty, yaqeen. So it's one thing to look at the heavens and the earth in general and feel the awe and surrender in belief. It's another to reflect more deeply into the ayat within the heavens and earth and reason on how the intricate ayat testify to the divine attributes of their maker, and listen to their messages and glorification, their tasbihat, and participate in those tasbihat by glorifying God with his beautiful names and surrendering to him in awe and belief, glorifying him not only in words but also in action, in state of being, in a state of being in humility, in prostration. And we prostrate during the salah, the prayers, to remember that, to live in that state of ihsan and humility. And I said enhance because it is not the only thing required. What matters more is that the person is willing to believe, is open to believe and surrender to the divine will. That's the most important thing. Once we have that, then everything else is going to enhance it and it becomes more and more beautiful. But if we don't have this, if I have 0, I can multiply it by a million ayats. I collect, it becomes like I'm collecting the ayat. But if I don't have that willingness to surrender, then it's not going to help me. But the more there is that willingness, that openness to surrender, the more humility there is, the more that reasoning will increase our certainty and increase our iman and increase our knowledge of God and our love of Him and our getting ready, our consciousness of akhirah and seeing the face of God in everything. And so living in this world in order to get ready for akhirah, because the world becomes a mirror to the messages from the unseen, and so everything becomes an investment for akhirah. Otherwise, as I said, it would be like collecting ayat without internalizing them, without surrendering ourselves to the reality of who we are and who we are as our ibadullah, His creatures, His needy and fragile guests. We subsist through His creating, through His sustaining us. If we truly, every day, just a little bit, reflect on this and accept it and say yes and confirm it and live it, subhanallah, all the ayat will start opening up to us. Because this is not only about information. This is about internalizing the message. And the first message is that we subsist through His creating and sustaining us here and now. My breathing is being sustained here and now. I have no idea how to sustain it, how to breathe. I am made to breathe, and I just marvel at the giver of life, subhanallah, at the qayyum who sustains everything. And so it's when we live with this consciousness that we are aware of our need for guidance, for divine guidance, on how to live our life, what is morally good and acceptable, and what is not. And that's when the boundaries of halal and haram become very important. And once we are clear about the halal and haram, we don't go out of it, we are within it. Now we want to live with that consciousness of that ihsan. And there are many, many Quranic passages where we're called to use our reason to observe the daily wonders of nature, and so many indication of an ayat of a conscious creative power in the universe reflected in the ayat, in the creation. For instance, I'm not going to go through them, but if you're interested, you can look at ayah 164 of Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah 2, so it's 2:164. It ends also with, these are messages and ayat and signs for people who use their reason. And also in Surah Al-Ra'd, Surah 13, ayah 4. And you can also have a look at An-Nahl, the bee, Surah 16, ayah 67, inshallah. And I will stop here. I wanted to end with ayah 6, because that's where it's like it makes more sense to end there, but I will just read it and inshallah we'll start from there. And ayah 6 tells us, تِلْكَ آيَاتُ اللَّهِ نَتْلُوهَا عَلَيْكَ بِالْحَقِّ فَبِأَيِّ حَدِيثٍ بَعْدَ اللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ يُؤْمِنُونَ. Those are God's signs. that we convey unto you, setting for the truth. In what other discourse, in what other speech, if not in God and in His ayat, will they then believe? And I will ask you a question, maybe we can talk about it next week. What are those ayat? What are those signs? When in ayah 6 of Surah Al-Jathiya, it says, Tilka ayatullahi. Those are God's signs. What are those signs? So inshallah we'll take it from there. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأهوال والآفات وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات وترفعنا بها عندك أعلى الدرجات وتبلغنا بها أقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات آمين يا مجيب الدعوات والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khair, Sister Yamina. We have a couple minutes for any questions or comments. Is there anyone?
Hey.
Sister Alia?
Yeah. So, Jazakallah khair, Yamina. It feels so warm in the heart to come back to Quran with you. Jazakallah khair for making it so warmly interactive. As I'm listening to you today, I'm trying to think of what are the takeaway points, and one of the big takeaway points here is again reminding ourselves that we need to be humble and listen, and not jump to that we understand everything and dismiss. So this openness, like the more humble, the more open we are to listen, the more then we can reflect and we can actually get the message. And the more distracted, more quick we want to pass quickly, the more we would not get the message. So that was my takeaway point. I was wondering, what are the takeaway points for other people in the group? Like, what was their main takeaway point from today? Let me see how many. We've got 16 participants, so I'm sure there's someone who wants to participate with their takeaway point. I'm muting myself.
Assalamu alaikum. Alia. My takeaway point was that when, you know how we talk about we need to listen to the Quran and what it makes us feel. Well, when I see a verse of the disjointed letters, what it makes me feel is a sense of discomfort that makes me want to just move on to the next thing, where, as was discussed, you feel as though you understand some words. And that feeling of discomfort is from facing our vulnerability and neediness. Because you understand, because you're facing the fact that you cannot understand everything. And I used to think that asking questions about like who I am or what my purpose in life is, where starts the guidance. But now I'm starting to think maybe that's not it. Maybe the key to start guidance, because those open up to knowledge, but the key to start guidance is to accept and face and accept our vulnerability, and not to pretend that I know what's best for me, or that I know what I'm doing in life. And not only that opens me up to my need of receiving guidance, but it also opens up to where in the second verse it says, God is tremendous, I think was the word, or Ali. The greatness of God, and I can only, it tells me that I can only understand God's greatness if I understand that I'm needy and vulnerable, and God is the one who is giving me everything. And I can only understand the truth, God, if I understand that I'm not the one who does the things that I think I'm doing. So then that verse of Hamim also gives me the key to guidance, I think, because it is not only through realizing our need for guidance, but also through realizing that when I'm weak, then I can start connecting with my Creator. When I accept my weakness, then I can start having a relationship, a conscious relationship with my Creator.
Jazakallah kulla khair. I love that. It's like very direct to the point, mashallah. Who else? I think I like this taking away points, because everyone's heart takes a different point out. So please share. Who else? We still have 14 present. So who else would like to share their takeaway points? I see Obrina. Are you gonna share, Obrina? Oh.
I don't even know. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I'm just learning how to work this thing now. It's new to me, but I always enjoy listening to Yamina, and she gives me an in-depth of each surah. I'm not ever going to forget. My first surah was the one that we got with when we did the one after Maryam, and I will never look at that surah the same after going into such detail that she went in every ayat. So I welcome joining in this class, and I just hope to be a better worshiper and continue to strive and to look at it from a much more spiritual, just a spiritual point, because I feel like my understanding of the Quran has been minimal thus far. When you meet people that truly are like digesting it. And then as I go through every year, because I'm getting older now, and I realize that you're supposed to grow with the Quran. It's supposed to be our guidance. And every ayat, like Yamina has said, every ayat is a mercy and a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So inshallah, I always welcome listening in on her, and she's such an inspiring person. And I just inspire to be more like Yamina and the people. And I went to her the last year. We were at the the thing that she had, that retreat.
The retreat in the mosque, in the Turkish mosque.
Yes, I was there, and it was just a beautiful time for me. I look forward to coming. I told my children I would love them to come. So inshallah, I'm looking forward to that as well. But we do have an obligation, and we don't know whichever of us is going to go before the other. So it's like, just like you said, like she puts it so well, preparing for the Akhirah. We just don't have any idea who's going to go before each other. But these times are definitely trying times, and I just bear witness to the fact that, Islam is. I'm just so humbled that I took my shahada when I was 25, and alhamdulillah, I am now 57, and I feel like I haven't just really grown but a smidget. I really do. So, mashallah. But as far as what I'm hearing today, I'm probably going to remember this surah as well, because I love the way she breaks everything down. I really do. So, may Allah.
So what did you love most about it? Like, what's the takeaway point? If you tell your children this is the one point takeaway, what would you say?
I would just say that the Quran is full of guidance, and that we need to all really submit. And it's not enough just to say, I read it and I understand it and I love it in my heart, as Yasmina has said. That's the easy part. The actual practicing it is what I have to work on, and that's what I'm telling my children as well. And one of them actually here doing her homework in the presence, and so she gets to see that, you know, it's serious. Life is serious, but it's also about choices. So inshallah, you know, I just pray to keep striving and, you know, just make the right choices.
It's serious and beautiful, Abrina.
Yes,
Thank you for sharing.
it is. It really is.
It's beautiful, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, Jazakumullah khair. Thank you so much for everyone for sharing. And we have a homework for next class. Sister Yamina is asking us to go back to verse 6 and reflect on what what signs are referred in that verse. And then we'll pick up from that verse onwards next class, inshallah.
We're still talking. No?
So I guess inshallah we're going to stop here and see you next Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, inshallah. And in the meantime, let us try to journey with these verses from the Quran. I wanted to share just one last thing. Maybe some of you have seen this already. There's this beautiful, what I think is beautiful presentation of human growth in a very short presentation, but it's beautiful. It's a TED Talk. I'm going to paste it here. And a quote from there as well. Sister Yamina was, when she was talking about verse 4 before, in the verse 4, it's making reference to the signs, messages in our own nature. And this is just a glimpse of some of the facts about human nature. And he was making reference to how we have 60,000 miles of vessels inside our body. By the time we're born, we're 9 months old, 60,000 miles. And only 1 mile of it is visible. And the rest is kind of 59,099 miles are constantly working at the background and taking nutrients and bringing nutrients and taking waste away. And then the person who's talking is a mathematician, so he was trying to see how much he can describe with mathematics the transfer of information across the human body, across different cells. From the moment the two cells, the zygote is implanted in the uterus, and he's still working. He said, right now, this is really beyond our comprehension of how this the system is built and is dynamic, and just sharing information. And then it's amazing because I showed this in class, and one of my students recently said, wait a second, they said everything is in the DNA. Yes, everything is written in the DNA, but we have no idea how that information is every second being connected to the rest of the body, and how different cells are given information, and then they process that information. That's just to describe it mathematically is beyond comprehension. And this isn't an argument from ignorance. This is an argument from like knowing so much about human body, and coming back to the notion that this much fine-tuning, this much planning and wisdom cannot be a result of some unconscious atoms and electrons running around. Like, it must be that somebody is guiding this process throughout. So I'm going to post that link here. It's called Conception to Birth Visualized, from a TED Talk. So that was I wanted to share before we close. Is there anybody else who wanted to say one last thing? Okay, so then inshallah we will meet next week. Jazakumullah khair, everyone. Jazakumullah khair, Sister Yamina. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay.
Alaikum salam.
Salam.